is it doing that? It's doing that because he's building too much cash value, and he starts to push what's called the death limit. It's a law. So how do we use that? How do we mention that to a client? If I was going to explain this to him, I'd say it's actually a good thing. It means that you're yielding so much cash value that the IRS would step in and say you now have a modified endowment contract. All right? Now, that's not necessarily bad if you're only going to pass it off as a death benefit, but if you ever want to access the cash, it's then taxable, so you don't want to do that. Okay? So, where are we going with this? Well, the idea is very simple. We've got two columns. We've got the guaranteed column, which guarantees 2%, okay? And then we've got the non-guaranteed, which is the assumed. So why am I selling off the assumed and not the guaranteed? Simply put, I'm basing it on the same thing we use when we show the guarantees in the IUL or in the FIL, right? What do we always talk about with indexing? We say you're guaranteed to lose nothing, but in order for these zeros to happen, the market has to go down every month, every year for the rest of your life. If you don't have the trifold, understand IULs, it's in the CRM, so you can find it there, but it has a nice graphic that talks about indexing. Okay, and it's going to talk about the market, right? The market going from zero, right? I'll just follow here with my finger. If the market goes down, you sustain those losses. The market comes back, goes down, comes up. How does indexing work? If the market goes down, you lose nothing. If it goes up, you get to capture it. With our IUL, the Lifetime Builder, I think it's a 13%. So if someone said you can capture all index gains up to 13%, and you'll never lose anything when the index goes down, sound pretty good? Of course it does. That's why IULs are a hot product. Now, we've talked about this for accumulation, but it also stays true for death benefit. So we have $1 million death benefit that we're putting $1,000 a month in, but he only wants to pay for 20 years. Since he's putting in so much cash, it's going to build cash and starts to push that $1 million. But we have instructed it to stay level. So what it actually does is it starts to reduce the premium that's needed, which is great, right? Yeah, you can put less premium, you still get $1 million, it still accumulates cash. But going back to the illustration here, why we can sit here and say, here's the guaranteed, okay, but you don't have to worry about it, or I wouldn't worry about it because I don't want to waste your time or mine, is the same thing we do in the IULs. Because if I say, in order for that guarantee to happen, the market would have to go down every month, every year, for the rest of your life. Now, if you think that's going to happen, then make sure you sell every stock you own, okay, and put it all in CDs. You're, of course, not going to do that. You're 31 years old. You're a believer in the market. What's going to happen? Well, it might not be necessarily exactly 7.58%, okay, every year. In fact, I guarantee it's not going to be 7.5% every year. But if you look at the history of it, it's going to be something around this, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. You certainly don't have to worry about a guarantee, but by law, I have to illustrate what the guarantee is. So if you're worried about what you see in this middle column, and this middle column, by the way, still guarantees that $1 million death benefit all the way to age 90, right? In order for that to happen, he would have had to gone 35 years or whatever it is, or 40 years, without the market ever returning anything. It's not realistic. It's not going to happen. So we stick over here and we look at what is realistic. So if we look at this illustration, you're going to see that the $1 million death benefit stays and the cash increases. So by the time he gets to say, let's say he lives to 92 years old, okay? 92 years old. He paid $194,000 into it. The death benefit is worth 8.293. 8.293. So we wrote it as a guarantee to $1 million, but it's worth 8.293 death benefit with over $8 million of cash value. Now, what can you use that cash value for? Anything. He could do loans for any reason. He could buy investment properties. He could pay for long-term care. He could go on a vacation. It's all going to be non-reportable tax-free income. But have we satisfied his desire to only spend $1,000 a month for 20 years and give $1 million death benefit? Yeah, we actually met that and exceeded it. Because based on average returns, he's going to get $8 million back. Now, to show it clients, I'll do this from time to time. I ran this at 4%. So the current fixed amount is 4%. Now, if you didn't want to worry about indexing, you could put all of it into 4%. That's the fixed amount. So Global Atlantic will give you 4% if you want just the fixed. Why am I doing that? If you're going to write an IUL, shouldn't you take advantage of indexing? Well, in this case here, same thing. To show him, right? The market has returned 7.58%. But if you got worried or scared, you could put it all in the fixed. That $1 million still lasts you, so 4% right over here. So in this column here, I've run this now at 4%. So that's almost half of what we illustrated before. We illustrated 7.58%. If they say, well, yeah, but what if the market's bad for long periods of time, sustained periods of time throughout the next 20 or 30 years? Maybe they're not saying it's going to go down every year for the rest of their life, but what if it's just not as good as it was for the last 100 years? It's not averaging 7.58%. Okay, I ran an illustration putting everything in the fixed account at 4%. Look where it ends up, okay? This death benefit stays at $1 million. In fact, it's still illustrating cash value all the way. Oops. Got it. Go to the next page here. So let's say at age 101 he finally dies, and just illustrating 4%, he still has his $1 million death benefit, and he's built up well over $500,000 in cash at 4%. How powerful is that? So maybe you don't believe my 7.58%, maybe you feel that's inflated, but the current fixed rate they're giving you, right? And that'll only go up as bond rates go up, because we've been at an all-time low for the overnight federal fund rate. Still builds $500,000 of cash and $1 million death benefit, and that's at age 101 where the illustration stopped running, okay? So do you understand my point? We can solve death benefit rather than just cash accumulation and taking it out. And when we do that, we get paid more target premium. You know what the target premium is? At $12,000 a year, okay, it's closer to $10,000 of target premium. I mean, instead of getting paid on a small amount of the overall premium, you get paid on a much larger amount. All right? So let's look at this in a different way. For an investment of $194,000 over 20 years, because that's what he put in. He put in $194,000 he did for 20 years. He's going to get a minimum. This is his $1 million. He's going to get a minimum of a 5x return, ROI, return on investment. He's going to get 5 times multiple on his ROI, and it's tax-free. But if we look at the $7 to $8 million range, which is based on the averages, he's more likely to get a 40x multiple. So, Malik, you're looking for $1 million. You want to spend $1,000 a month for the next 20 years, then you retire so you can take care of your family? This is how we do it. I can essentially guarantee you the $1 million for $194,000 invested. That's a 5 times multiple, Malik. But more likely, based on the average, it's going to be a stock, quote unquote, that goes up 40 times. 40x multiple. And everything you take out, whether you borrow the money or pass it on to your wife and kids, will be tax-free. So, you seem comfortable investing in stocks, so why not buy a stock that guarantees a 5 times payout and could return 40 times, and all of it being tax-free? Does that make sense? Do you see how we can use that in our estate planning? Some built-in riders I think you need to be aware of with Global Atlantic on this, on their IUL and their lifetime foundation. First, they have overloan protection. Overloan protection just simply makes it a guarantee that if you're taking out too much money, because some people, I mean, we illustrate this at, taking out $100K a year, taking out $150K or $50K or whatever it is when we do these illustrations. The reality is when they retire, they might be overly aggressive with it. They take out 100, then they want to take out another 50, then they want to take out another 20. So if they ever get into a position where they've taken out too much money, overloan protection is there, so it won't lapse and become a modified endowment contract and create a tax burden on all that. It will immediately shut off if they ever take out too much, okay? It also has the chronic illness rider built in. Now, this is a 90-day elimination period, but understand this. It's if you can't perform 2 of 6 ADLs, activities of daily living, that's eating, bathing, dressing, walking, whatever it is, if you can't perform just 2 of 6, you can have access after 90 days for the critical illness rider. Now, it falls in line with the IRS per diem limit. There's a certain limit per day that you can pay yourself, but it will basically go up to $1 million, or the per diem limit, whichever's more. Whichever's less, because you have to fall in line with the IRS. But that's hundreds of thousands of dollars that Malik could use off of his death benefit, and he could pay himself, his family, his wife can receive the check. So he is satisfied, essentially, long-term care, okay? Now let's look at critical illness. What's the difference? Well, critical illness comes on you suddenly, all right? Critical illness, stroke, heart attack, cancer, transplant, paralysis, severe burn, coma, all right? You can do the same thing. You can access the money. I think it's up to $1 million. And then terminal illness is the one that you can access 50% of the death benefit or $250,000, whichever's more. Okay, and that's where you get diagnosed with something where you have less than 12 months to live. Keep in mind, it's an indemnity, not a reimbursement. You know how many long-term care plans are reimbursement? You pay and then they reimburse you. This money goes to you. And you don't even need to be at a licensed facility. You can be at home, have a doctor's note and say, hey, Malik can't perform 2 of 6 ADLs. How much money do you want to access? And they start sending the check. Wouldn't that be helpful for him as he takes care of his father? The burden that creates, the cost that creates, right? I've seen places where they have to put wheelchair ramps up, where they have to pay for people to come in because they want to take a vacation. They have to pay for extra apparatuses, things like that, catheters, things. I mean, it can be a very emotional and draining thing financially also. All right.
Noah,
so having an extra $1 million, $250,000 that you have access to, whether you want to do it through one of the riders or just borrow the money, extremely powerful, and obviously makes you feel good. It makes me feel good, and I'm, truthful statement, knowing that I'm protecting my family. So as I get older, I hope to live to 80. Right. If I get older. And this stuff starts to happen, we always say, hey, just put me out to pasture, just put a bullet in my head. And I understand that. I feel that personally a lot. But the reality is this. Reality is my kids love me, right? They want to take care of me. They want to help me out. And so the least I need to do is be able to give them the right tools to be able to do that. And we don't sell enough of this. We need to be talking estate planning and talking about what's your plan for end of life. What's your plan for if you have chronic illness? What's the plan if you're diagnosed with a terminal illness? What's the plan if you can't perform 2 of 6 ADLs? Right? And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but you sell more of that, you're going to sell more of these types of policies, and you're going to make a lot more money. Let's continue on. Here's Doug and Susan. Doug is 67, Susan is 62. Doug is in average health, Susan is in great health. She's also younger by 5 years, so we probably got a good decade of life expectancy beyond Doug. Doug has a higher Social Security at $2,000 a month, and a $2,000 a month pension that drops down 50% when he dies. Susan has $900 a month in Social Security. So quick quiz. When Doug dies, how much money does Susan lose? Well, Susan loses half of the $2,000 and all of the $900, right? So she loses roughly $2,000 a month. And this is later in life, when inflation has eroded our purchasing power and we have less of our faculties to be aware, to be able to go out and certainly not enter the job market at that time. So we estimate that she's going to lose $2,000 a month when Doug dies and that she's going to live at least 10 years longer. So she needs to make up a gap for about $240,000. So here are the 3 problems I see. And this is what I want you saying to clients in the home after you do the financial inventory. I see 3 problems, Doug and Susan. First, Doug, your spouse is going to lose 45% of the income when you die. Second, inflation will be cutting into her purchasing power. And third, you have no long-term care solution. See, we're going to talk about this again in just a second about the new financial inventory and how we ask about long-term care. See, these permanent policies. See, if someone's under 50, we're just not even presenting an IUL. We've got to change that. You want to make $10,000 a month? That's no exaggeration. Start asking about long-term care. Start asking about income gap. And you're going to sell level policies, right? Which, yes, they pay more target premium, but that's not why we're doing it. We're doing it because we're trying to solve this issue. We're trying to solve this problem. We're trying to build a death benefit and then be able to borrow money off of that with the riders that I showed you earlier, okay? So these are the three things I want you to say to Doug in this sort of situation, okay? Now, let's look at the illustration. So here's Doug. We wrote a Lifetime Foundation. Slightly different product. Lifetime Foundation Elite is what we wrote. Okay? Now, he wants the $250,000 level death benefit. And we solved it at $800 a month. That might sound like a lot, but they can afford their bills. Trust me, they're not excited about $800 a month. Do they want to pay $800 a month? Did they fill out the mortgage protection form or the final expense form thinking they're going to pay $800 a month? Absolutely not. But when you show them the benefit and you show them the consequence of not paying $800 a month, you see why they're motivated to do such.
Don't do that.
All right, so if we look at this here, a couple things I like about the Lifetime Foundation. One, it doesn't yield as much cash. It does not yield as much cash as the Lifetime Builder. But if you look here,
go give me the
at age 78, and Doug's not in great shape, so 78 might be end of life. Doesn't matter. The cash value has ran out, but what do we see? We see the death benefit is still guaranteed. That's, again, if the market went down every month, every year for the rest of Doug's life. It's not going to happen. But isn't it nice to know that you have a guarantee beyond what the cash value is going to be? What's more likely to happen is over here, based on average illustrations, average returns. Let's go to the next page, and let's say Doug lives to 87. That death benefit is still guaranteed, even though there is no cash value. In fact, it's going to take that guarantee all the way to age 90, which is well beyond. Doug is written on standard. You know, maybe he's taking some metformin, maybe he's got high blood pressure. Doug has a guaranteed death benefit at age 90, which is way beyond what Doug's going to live. But we, again, don't have to worry about the guarantee. And I hate to say don't worry. It sounds so ill-prepared. It sounds almost illegal. I'm not saying don't worry. You need to address people's questions. But for to focus on this is actually a waste of time. Because in order for this to happen, the market would have to go down every month, every year for the rest of Doug's life. It's just not going to happen. Now, I'm not saying it's going to return 6%, but it's going to be closer to what's over here. In which case, not only is the death benefit continuing on well into Doug's mid-90s, it actually, because it gains so much cash, starts to grow even larger. So now his death benefit is 324, 349, 380, 414, 451. You get the picture. But I don't think this is going to happen, and I don't think this is going to happen. Mortality is mortality. How do you think life insurance companies make so much money? How do you think annuity companies make so much money? They play the averages. If someone's in standard health, they're a male, they're taking high blood pressure medication or metformin or whatever it might be, and they're 67 years old, BMI a little bit heavy, they're not living to 120. Okay? They're just not. They're not living to 100. They're not living to 95. It doesn't happen. Okay? But if it does, based on average returns, he's still covered. What I'm saying is, we're not getting him excited about this, nor are we getting him scared about this. We're talking right about that age, 88, which would be a long time to live. The $250,000 is there. Now, what does that mean? Let's go back to the PowerPoint here. See, Doug, if you die at age 90, and that's a stretch, Doug, okay? When did your father die? 67? When's your brother? Is your brother still alive? Right? No, he died. He's 4 years older than you. You'll talk to people like that who, yes, they all think they're going to live longer than they probably should, but there's a reality to it. So if you live to age 90, think of it this way. You bought a stock, this Lifetime Foundation. You bought a stock for $211,000 that's now worth $250,000. That is an 18.3% ROI. And the gains and the payout are all tax-free. If you die at a more realistic age of 82, you bought that stock for $144,000. It's still worth $250,000. That's a 73.6% ROI. 73.6% ROI. And the returns are tax-free. See, Doug, Susan, my job is not to mince words. So I know this is a lot of money, $800 a month. I know this is not what you're expecting. But the reason we do this financial inventory is to understand really what's going on here, because we address these problems every single day. So what you're saying, Doug, if you don't purchase this policy, is that Susan can deal with it. Now, like I said, I don't mince words, but that's exactly what you're saying. If you can't find a way now to scratch and pick and scrape and get $800 a month together, how is Susan going to be able to do it when she loses $2,000 a month? How's she going to take care of herself? How's she going to take care of long-term care? How's she going to take care of you? You think $800 a month is expensive? Try paying for long-term care off your current budget if you don't have something like this together. Now, maybe Doug can't afford all $800. Maybe we do it for $500 a month, $400 a month. But it's level premium, so it all goes to the target premium, or most goes to target premium. And that's how we find $10,000 extra every single month. Notice I'm saying $10,000, not $1,000. Hey, you want to sell this, that, add on some accidental, and I'm all for that stuff. But let's start really, really selling and helping people. Let's start helping people with their estate planning and taking care of the people that they love. All right, appreciate everyone. One other thing, I apologize. I'm glad I clicked the next slide. We've changed the financial inventory one more time, right? Just to be annoying, but honestly, we have everything right here in the first two sections of the financial inventory, okay? The first section is the client information, and in that you have the income sources. So like Doug and Susan, I was able to find out how much they make, what the income gap is, what their ages are. We have their medication, so what their health is. We can piece it together right there. But we have added this. Do you have long-term care coverage? Yes or no? See, there's going to be agents out there that glom onto this and get it. And they're going to be making $10,000, even $20,000 more every single month because they get this. Because if you don't have long-term care coverage, if some of your income, Doug, is going to drop off, Susan has got the deck stacked against her. There's no way she can win. Is that really what you want? Of course it's not. So let's find a way to cover you, okay? Because if you don't have any long-term care coverage, how are you going to pay for long-term care? And when I reviewed those riders that come with the Global Atlantic products, very, very powerful, right? Don't even need to be in a facility. You can have 2 of 6 ADLs. You can have the check come to you. It's not even a reimbursement. It can be borrowed off the cash value or off the death benefit. Powerful, powerful stuff. So remember that. Utilize the new financial inventory to generate these sales. So if you want to copy the new financial inventory, if you have any questions, can't find the IUL trifold, okay, you can go ahead and email annuity at Family First Life. Any scenarios that you're reviewing, stumbling into, okay, you can review this presentation on YouTube, but just send it to Ask a Specialist and we'll help you out. All right, everyone, thanks for paying attention today. I look forward to talking to you next week.